You arrange your surroundings reflecting your personality.
The inner courtyard is like a meditative garden.
Andres, come on. This is our teamwork.
Friends, I'd like to start about this charming house with a story about the owner of the house, our client. Usually they want to remain anonymous, but in this case it's our good friend Alexei Kapitanov, the creator of many famous creative clusters in Moscow. One of the most famous is called Super Metal. We had joint projects and Alexei made us design his house. We don't usually highlight the individuals or families who live in the architecture we create, but it's always fascinating to see. Our approach is deeply tailored, shaped by the unique context of each place and the people we design for. After all, a house is a reflection of a person's inner world.
Hi, Katya and Lyosha. We thought it would be good to have a conversation with the owners of this house. As I understand it, this is a collaborative effort of yours, since you both worked on the implementation. So, I have a question regarding this. Given that you manage many properties, it's truly a pleasure that you chose to trust us with your personal home, which I believe reflects the utmost trust, unlike commercial projects. You typically seek specialists for commercial work, while a home is something personal. Perhaps it's best to start with the most basic question: why a house? And how did the idea of the house come about? I'll start from afar.
Easy, I can't say, Lyosha, that I fully understand my desires or can clearly define the tasks, and my experience shows that it's not essential. Right, flexibility brings the right rhythm to the process, making it feel more organic and alive. But my story is, in some ways, a bit unusual. I've always had this quiet fantasy to touch the water, to be near it. The story of this house didn't begin with the land. It started even earlier, with the water. 4 years ago, a friend and I bought our first small boat. It's not the most popular location right now. There are trendier, more developed options. But I was chasing something simpler, a basic, almost instinctive need to be close to the water. Now, we're in this villa neighborhood right on the shoreline. We even have our own dock. In general, my boat came before the land did.
The first thing that stands out is that this house has absolutely no fence. You can hardly see the house. Driving through the village, we see regular homes with various wrought iron fences. There are some columns, porticos, and generally grand facades, but in this case it follows a Scandinavian principle. Here we see a facade of the house simply covered with boards, and this facade serves as a fence. This house is all about privacy because it looks inward. I simply adore homes with inner courtyards. It's incredibly beautiful. And here it serves as a wow factor since we can see the house entrance from this angle. To the right, there's a lovely courtyard forming a stunning composition. Because the windows of some rooms overlook this inner courtyard, resulting in an interesting symbiosis. Yes, on one hand, a super open house. On the other hand, it's snug and fully private. Take this idea into account. Just skip the fence, alright, and make the entrance area open like this. On this side, we observe the facade clad in larch. It features varying widths with concealed fasteners. Overall, you see an interesting asymmetrical roof shape. This was our idea because the back part of the house has public spaces like the living room, kitchen, and dining room, which need a higher ceiling. In the side sections of the house, the bedrooms are located, where a lower ceiling is needed, and thus the shape of this asymmetrical roof was born. You can see the garage and a technical driveway for servicing this house. Let's get closer. I'm not sure how to put this correctly, but this fence is stylistically very fitting for this facade made of wooden slats. If you have a house in a Scandinavian style, you want your fence to virtually disappear? Yes, because it just blends into nature, and it's practically invisible. Choose a design like this with a lacy mesh painted in anthracite color. Yes, it will match the facade nicely where seen, and in green areas it will blend in perfectly. Moreover, grapes have already been planted there, and even grape trellises stand along this fence. It will be planted here, and it will practically weave through it. There won't be a fence here, yes, and these gates, they blend into the surroundings, making them almost invisible to the eye. As there is no fence here, we aim to design beautiful arrangements at the entrance, allowing those walking through the village to appreciate the beauty, so to speak. The landscaping was mainly managed by Alexei, while our company participated, albeit to a smaller degree. And here are some trees planted that create a very self-scaling composition, and functionally they divide the technical entrance. The car entrance leads to a large garage for a boat, as there is significant water here, and they effectively separate the entrance for pedestrians. As I approach the main entrance, I want to highlight that the columns here are not typical metal profile tubes, beams, or channels. This is a round pipe. You will see it in the interior of the house, and it looks very interesting and fits the vibe of the house. So, if you opt for a metal support and your house has a Scandinavian style, selecting a round pipe could be a great choice. Such designs are seldom seen in projects, but here, I believe, we successfully incorporated it into the architecture in an interesting way. The house's shape is quite fascinating. It features a round window here, which, by the way, matches this round pipe. In general, the circular shape is played with here. You will see in the interior a large round lamp, and there's also a little Zen garden here, which features a bowl that is somewhat Japanese, I suppose. In general, with such an intriguing constructivist design, the house is primarily constructed from a single material. Here, the facade is simply made of larch, nothing particularly extraordinary about it. In fact, we don't see a baseboard. Arch goes directly to the pavement, and basically, it's simply a minimalist facade material. When we were working on the project, we suggested several facade materials, but ultimately decided it would be cool to just use one large facade. This house interacts well with nature, and over time, the facade will gray, of course, and will blend even more with the surrounding vegetation, while the plants will grow a little during this time. This is the exit from the garage, and there are two accesses for people to reach the house. They can walk through the village and enter through this path, or they can drive here instead. And they can come out and be at this spot too. There is a paved line that leads straight to the house, culminating in an entrance door embedded in this wooden facade. This is our inner courtyard, a meditative garden. I enjoy how it looks from a spa area. And when you are in the sauna, this is actually a panoramic window of the sauna. A lot of people fear having windows in saunas. Here, the whole wall is practically a window, and I believe this is a next-generation sauna, as saunas used to be built in basements, but now the trend is to make saunas as panoramic as possible. When you are in the block or in the sauna, you see nature in layers. You see the first layer of nature, this courtyard, then you see the interior, and then you see the second layer of nature. This is the backyard of the house. This means you can look straight through the house, experiencing a mix of exterior, interior, and exterior views. In other words, it illustrates how architecture slowly integrates into the surrounding natural landscape, and the house embodies this concept. From here, we can walk into the hallway of this house and probably go right through it to show you the house from all angles, and then we will talk about its interior. Thus, we have explored the whole house, and it's evident that it is entirely solid at the ends, as there is a neighbor on each side. I told you how it looks from the road, and it fully opens up to such a beautiful inner courtyard. There's a small pond, some geo-landscaping, and a lush arrangement of greenery. Yes, essentially this bagel-shaped house has large windows with the view. If we take the idea that a house should be made of one material, then it's right to go all the way and even make the terrace exactly the same, like the house's front. You see, it's just a single unit, and here everything is in this natural wood, because the goal was to achieve unity with nature. The courtyard is quite interestingly organized. The plot is roughly a half acre. The house occupies a small area on the plot, and there are quite a few walking areas. There is this body of water, and you can walk around it like this. I think it's a very functional element that defines the whole landscape design, since the house lacks any kind of covered structures, if you will, or specific area. There are just lounges, there are just tables, there are just sofas, and there is just art. There is some kind of bench over there, and in the end you can sit on these steps like on a bench, and it's a sort of artistic chaos, I would say. When we work on our projects, we think a lot about how the client will behave in this space. It's about mood and emotions.
What about liquidity? You're always looking at the numbers. I think that's a kind of professional reflex at this point. It feels like you've got a real handle on this stuff. Honestly, with your experience and network, I'm sure you could easily tap into the right contacts and find some great land.
Yes, I understand your question, Alexei. But I was primarily based on how I would like to arrange my country life, not on extensive infrastructure or market cap. I wasn't considering extensive infrastructure, liquidity, or the market cap of this land. In other words, I wasn't basing my views on mercantile principles, if you will. But nevertheless, having spent some time here after completing this construction, I understand that there are many different factors in liquidity, and the last thing I've come to, no matter how trivial it may sound, is what is the most important metric, what is the key parameter that defines the worth over the long run. I've concluded that in the end, it's all about architecture, not the location or the environment surrounding it. Since we constantly encounter rapid evolution, I believe you know that your taste changes every year. It's all about upgrading, and you no longer understand where the finish line is, where it's time to stop. There's always some change in this, and that's interesting. You live, and you must always renovate your surroundings, your environment, your ideas, etc. Architecture is expensive, but it has a high capital cost. And you always need to plan with at least a 10-year horizon if you want it to stay relevant. Enduring 10 years is quite challenging, as you can reflect on who you were a decade ago, what you constructed, and your thoughts at that time. If we can achieve this in a somewhat lasting way, it appears that there is significantly more liquidity in this than in the routes or locations we might choose, or what infrastructure we choose today as more relevant. For this reason, being aware of this principle, I don't easily follow trends based on geographical ties.
Hey, this is definitely not a trivial answer. I'd call it unconventional, as the golden rule for real estate agents is 3 things: location, location, location. So this is indeed a great answer. As I see, after all, you can shape an environment around yourself based on your personality that will raise the price instead of adjusting to a location. So, let me tell you about the internal organization of our home. It's actually 4,300 square feet, quite a large house, but a considerable portion of this space is used for an internal hangar and garage. Here, therefore, the layout of the premises is quite traditional. We have the primary bedroom located in that block. This space includes 2 bedrooms and a study, with the main area being the living room combined with the kitchen. A vital feature of contemporary houses is a compact spa section that includes its own room. It includes a private sauna integrated into the overall design of the house. Perhaps the most distinctive feature, design-wise, is the exterior. It's unexpectedly intriguing. I'm standing by a window that overlooks the courtyard, which creates a stunning spatial layout centered around it. Viewed from above, the house reveals 3 corridors framing this courtyard, each offering beautiful views and leading through a graceful, thoughtfully composed space. The landscape composition within the courtyard makes the entire house feel truly unique. When it comes to the interior, 2 key features stand out. First, the space is remarkably generous. The living room is expansive, the kitchen just as open, yet despite the scale, it still feels incredibly cozy. So what's the secret? It's primarily in dark tones, as you can see. We have dark engineered parquet flooring with dark ceiling boards and a dark kitchen. The space feels less vast. You won't get lost. You feel cozy here. The main highlight of this comfort is likely this enormous chandelier, which acts as a final accent. This massive chandelier was custom made and illustrated by our designers. In fact, we often use similar designs in our projects. Because, for example, in this space, the ceiling reaches about 23 feet at its highest point, a dramatic height. While many people dream of large open rooms, such scale can sometimes feel overwhelming or even uncomfortable, with echoes and a sense of emptiness. These oversized chandeliers add a horizontal layer that visually segments the living area, bringing it down to a more human scale, without sacrificing the overall volume or ceiling height. Regarding the living room, the focal point is typically the wall with the television and the fireplace. This resulted in a quite beautiful structure, as the accent material of this wall not only faces the living room, but also flows into the side surfaces. It also repeats in the corridor, creating a solid monolithic structure that looks harmonious from all angles. There is a carefully integrated space for the television, so it blends in well, not appearing too high-tech or rustic, and you can't see that typical problem with TVs, which is the frame. If viewed from an angle, all the wires become visible. At the same time, the fireplace is integrated here, and it somewhat blends into this lower band, which is highlighted in gray, and sometimes it can go unnoticed as it blends in so well, which is indeed a good thing, because the biggest issue with these living room islands is that the fireplace and the TV are completely different in mood. A fireplace is meant to be enjoyed in an intimate evening setting, while the TV is usually always on, and it's important that these two items do not clash with each other, and the worst thing you can do is to hang the TV above the fireplace, and here the priorities are set very correctly in my opinion. Let's move on. Right here, I absolutely love the sliding door that opens up to our yard. It functions flawlessly. For example, there's no canopy here, and truly it's unnecessary because when you open these windows completely, your living room merges with the outdoor area. And for example, when it rains, people often say, "How can I be on the terrace in the rain?" No one stays out when it rains because it's wet and uncomfortable, and rain will come in. It feels very natural because when the doors are open, you are practically already outside. As for the kitchen, it is quite accentuated here, done in black with a wonderful stone countertop. With a matte material, I love how it blends with the dark wood. Very classic, and I believe the most convenient layout for the kitchen, meaning we have a central area where the sink is located. In fact, a huge surface where we cook, where we can place some bar stools if needed, and actually this triangle is quite well arranged. We can place some bar stools if needed, and actually this triangle is quite well arranged. I feel that if we discuss the perfect layout of a stunning contemporary kitchen, well, here it is, folks, a great example. This area is not separated by any doors or partitions, as there is absolutely no need for that. We have again a wonderful inner courtyard that provides proper sound insulation, because when talking here, I am no longer heard in the living room, and simultaneously as we pass through this corridor, we have shifted and realize we are in a totally different functional area. The interior isn't finalized yet, it's still in a tentative phase, but the space already feels impressive. A large sliding door opens directly onto the courtyard, where we're planning to build a hot tub as a separate structure, connected by a sort of ladder, and perhaps the most intriguing element is the sauna tucked behind a glass door. What's truly striking is the large panoramic window inside the sauna. It adds a whole new dimension to the experience. In fact, many people argue about it, especially in the comments, where I often read about how to heat such steam rooms. Here's a standard Harvia stove with 2 sections. It doesn't cost a fortune. It warms this area to 195 degrees Fahrenheit. No special constructions are required to deal with this, a regular heater. To showcase the entire house, let's stroll down this corridor and check each door to see what's inside. Behind the first door we have basically a boiler room which is still unfinished with a separate exit to the street. Everything is quite standard, nothing out of the ordinary. Next to the spa area there should naturally be some kind of restroom with a shower which is also a bit unfinished. Then we have 2 sleeping rooms. Here they are basically. It's still in such an embryonic state, so to speak. Anyway, it needs to be shown to make it clear what we have here. Once again, I pass through this corridor each time. I love the view from the windows every time. Finally, the last door takes us through the living room into the office, which is quite interesting because it's a small room with a large panoramic window and access to the terrace, which is quite nicely done as it is hidden in a small niche under a canopy. Overall, it's nice to have a door to the office because guests can arrive, and if you prefer not to lead them through the entire house, you can simply go around and enter the office from the terrace. The floor here is engineered wood, and beneath it lies a hidden underfloor heating system. It's a lovely solution combining wood, which is my favorite flooring material because it's so tactile and feels great to walk on barefoot. But there's a major issue in houses. Without a heated floor, walking barefoot is quite uncomfortable due to cold. Even today, it's 44 degrees Fahrenheit outside, a bit chilly, and my feet are already cold, and the heated floor solves this problem. When you enter, there's a separate door that conceals a walk-in closet, plus there are extra cabinets available where you can undress and hang your outer garments, and so on. As I always mention, our main feature in all the houses is that there is a large panoramic window opposite the entrance where we can see the inner courtyard. This is a very beautiful thing because we can truly feel the entire volume of our home. We can look into a private courtyard and admire how beautifully everything is set up. Psychologically, this really sets a person up and creates the right feeling of space. Behind this door, of course, we should have a guest restroom at the entrance. It's designed in contrasting tones, a very striking design choice. You'll be able to see it all for yourself. We often mention that black fixtures aren't the most practical choice, but aesthetics triumphs over practicality in this case, because black plumbing looks incredibly cool. Here, the space leads into the owner's block, marking the end of this section. Let's go in. As you can see, our bedrooms are separated, meaning the guest and children's rooms are in that wing so as not to disturb the parents. Everything is distinct. A really great design choice that starts break time with this kind of bathroom, which looks very beautiful from the entrance area and creates a closing visual axis for the entire corridor. And essentially, this is an unusual arrangement in the owner's block, while the main bedrooms should feature something intriguing, which is the central area. You can pass behind the headboard of the bed, where a wardrobe extends to the corridor side. And in this area, as you can see, also without any dividers, we have a shower featuring this interesting stone-like decor. And I believe this finish is maybe the Pinterest board of anyone who dreams of their own home. And here it has become a reality. It pairs very well with this kind of light window because it provides natural light that falls from above. This wall creates very contrasting shadows, emphasizing the relief. Overall, these are the kinds of details that I believe are interdependent. Since this relief design is always wonderfully lit with contrasting light. Additionally, it's important to highlight a distinct exit to a separate terrace, which, as you can see, is created with the same idea as in the office. We have a small niche under a roof where you can go out, and it will be completely isolated from the main terrace of the living room, essentially serving as a separate private space where you can have your own set of outdoor furniture reserved exclusively for your use. I hope you liked our house. Please react if you enjoyed it, leave comments and give likes, and we'll keep you happy. I hope you enjoy good architecture and see you in the next reviews. Bye!